Chang is the author of The Coming Collapse of China. He worked in China and Hong Kong for nearly 2 decades. Joining me now on Overtime. Gordon, you and I have talked for years about what it really looks like when you have one country and subsidiaries. Hong Kong thought it was going to get special treatment. Will it?
No. In Hong Kong, they've got what's called the one country, two systems formula. It's supposed to apply for 50 years until 2047. And the reason why you have these protests, and it's not just these kids that you see, but you had 2 million people on the streets on June 16th, is because people believe that Beijing is encroaching on its promise of autonomy. And Carrie Lam, the Hong Kong chief executive, is seen basically as Beijing's person, not as someone who represents people in Hong Kong. So there is this contest of wills right now between, let's say, 2/3 and 3/4 of the people in Hong Kong and Beijing.
So what happens when Beijing, historically it's done this, decides, you know what, we're not going to play anymore, we're taking you back. You're not going to get exceptions to communist rule. You're going to get what you get. What happens then?
I think then you'd see mass protests on
more
June
than this?
12th. More than this. On June 16th, there were 2 million people on the streets. You probably would have more than that. You know, right now the Chinese leaders are meeting in Beidaha, which is a seaside resort. They do this most August. They last for about 2 weeks, where you have almost all of the senior leadership plus former leaders gather and talk about issues. Beidaha, if it goes according to schedule, probably will end at the end of this week. And then we could see something happen, because then there could very well be a consensus among Xi Jinping and his colleagues about what to do. I think right now they're pretty much stalling, waiting for the end of Beidaha.
I want to get to some of the details that people are watching our markets for, the continuing trade conversation that the United States, our President Trump, is having with China right now. There was a delay today in some of the tariffs on goods, simultaneously with what's going on here. What's happening in Hong Kong matters to a greater conversation. Why?
It matters because Beijing has been attacking democracy across the world, and including ours. And really the front line of freedom right now is the Hong Kong airport.
So they'd love to hit our elections, for example, right?
They certainly are, and they're going to try to influence the 2020 election, just as they influenced the 2018 election. They were very much involved in the midterms, and openly so. So we're going to see much more of this in the run-up to the elections next year.
Gordon Chang, it is a democratic thing to do, to march and to protest, but I have to tell you, when you tell me that there are more than 2 million people who are ready to march, that is a recipe for disaster when you have one side that is willing to torture its people in China. Wow. We'll keep an eye on it. Thank you for joining me.